How do you find your work-life balance? It's very important to be busy for your relationships because your purpose allows you to show up as your authentic self, and not be so hung up on insecurities and fears. Having said that, there is a possibility where you can become too busy. It's like you're obsessively working all the time and you're proving to other people how important you are because you're always busy, and that's not healthy either. So you have to find that balance in the middle. So how do you work towards that balance? It's never going to be perfect. It's going to be like bobbing up and down in the ocean because your work priorities and your tasks and what needs to be done will always change and be variable. What remains the same all the time is your ability to just relax and be as a human being. Tribes will do this in certain cultures. They will just sit for a really long time and hang out. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as you take that time for recharging for what you need to be doing later. And in fact, writers can get some of their best ideas when they're just sitting around and then they spontaneously start writing. You also have to have that habit and that backbone of writing in the first place. If you've never written, you need to establish that habit first. And then as the habit gets established, you get more inspired. And it's the same with working out. You have to have that habit first, and then you'll become inspired. The habit has to be set first, then you get better at following inspiration and changing it up so the habit becomes easier and more natural. Like when you work out, for example, you might work your arms one day and then your arms get exhausted, but you still want to work out the next day, so you focus more on your core the next day. This is just one example, but you could be swimming one day and then cycling the next. There's more than one way to achieve this goal in order to find the balance. And it's the same with work. We have these rhythms where we get exhausted of doing one particular thing and being busy with one thing one day. And sitting at your desk 8 to 5, hardcore, focusing all the time isn't always the best way to get work done. Sometimes you get inspiration when you're out for a walk, or you're out for a swim, or you're out in nature somewhere. And even though it appears like you're not working, you're relaxing, if you have a creative job, those moments are actually really important to stir your inspiration and stir your talent so that you can produce something of meaning and of value. And that's something that employers don't always understand, especially in creative jobs. They just assume that you're doing nothing and taking money, and therefore they should lay you off. And that's just not true. Smart employers understand that creativity takes some feeding. Nowadays, creative jobs are becoming more rare, and so the way people express their creativity and build their career is by doing the creative work up front for free. They write the book for free, and then they get the publishing contract, or they create the social media content for free for a period of time, and then they get the following. A lot of creative professions, you have to give first, like acting, you have to go to audition, for example, before you get the fruits of your creative labor. And so you have to have the discipline to show up to your creativity when it's not paying you anything, when it's taking your time and you could be doing something else. And you may have to support yourself with another job while you're doing the creative endeavor. And that's pretty normal. A lot of actors and creative writers end up living their lives that way and have their job as the foundation, and then they have to discipline themselves to show up for free to the thing that they really enjoy. And so that can make you even more busy, actually. And it can actually allow your life to fall out of balance if you're not careful. Having said that, I think if you are in this position where you do have a full-time job and then you support your creative habit on the side, you're naturally just going to be a really busy person. It's going to be hard to keep it all balanced. You should try to make that effort to relax when you can, but the people around you who know you will also just need to accept who you are and that your creativity and your projects are very important to you. If the people around you can't accept that, and you've really tried your best to show up for them, then maybe they're not the right people to surround yourself with. Maybe it's time to let them go. If people are being too demanding on your time and they're expecting you to be available in a moment's notice and you have work and creative projects to do, it's okay to set boundaries and say, hey, I'm too busy to be available on a moment's notice. I need more time if we're going to schedule something to make sure I've achieved everything that I need to achieve for my goals before we spend time together. And then that time you spend together is more joyful because you're not worried or feeling guilty that you didn't do your creative projects or you didn't do the work that you needed to do. Another caveat to this work-life balance is that you have to have life-affirming activities, life-affirming people around you who are going to give you the most energy and the most joy. And a relationship is a two-way street. You do have to give joy to the other person when it's appropriate. Having said that, if they're taking too much of your time and they're being grouchy because you're not available, it's better to give people like that some distance. Or if they're flaking and they're not showing up when they say they want to, you have to give people distance and give them space while you work on your own creativity and your own priorities, because you have to do whatever it takes to build your life and to create balance, and taking time for yourself is included as part of that balance, and it's just as important as the work or creative activities. Taking that time to go in nature, taking that time to listen to a beautiful piece of music or go to a concert. These leisure activities may appear frivolous to others, but they're actually very important to rebuilding your sense of spirit and your sense of joy in life. If you run yourself too dry, too ragged, you're not going to have any creativity left for your projects. And that's why a lot of people do give up on their creative endeavors. They may just run themselves too ragged trying to do everything, and then they get exhausted, and then they only do the minimum in their job. They don't do their creative pursuits anymore. They put it to the back burner because they're just too exhausted. And you don't want to be that person. That's why it's so critical to take time out to do things that are fun, to do things that are joyful and will keep you in balance when you have to go back and really address your work and your discipline. And that's what's going to give you that fuel and that energy to keep going at the end of the day, and having life-affirming people around you who accept you, who you are.